Good afternoon. My name is Evan Stone. I am one of the co-founders and co-CEOs at Educators for Excellence. I'm a former sixth grade teacher at PS 86 in the Bronx. And I'm here today because 12 years ago when we launched this organization, it started with a pretty simple promise that teachers had been subjects of change for far too long, and we were going to flip that on its head and make teachers agents of change. Well, right now our district is in crisis. And instead of engaging with and listening to educators on the front lines in our classrooms, our union and our district are proceeding with a top-down approach that we know has failed for far too long. Today, in the spirit of E4E, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to listen to teachers who will be sharing and uplifting the perspectives of their colleagues from across the city. We're going to share a poll of 110 New York City teachers. That's an oversample of a poll of 1,000 teachers across the country, talking about what's most important to them and to their students. The findings of this poll are a stark reminder of the challenges that New York City schools face. The survey confirms what we already know. Our students are experiencing huge impacts from the pandemic. 82% of teachers say their students are a great deal behind where they were before the pandemic. This is a huge burden on educators going back into the classroom. Additionally, 78% of teachers say their students' mental health is worse than it was before the pandemic. This means 4 out of every 5 teachers is saying the students in front of them are further behind academically and struggling mentally because of this pandemic. These challenges, though, are not our students' destiny. This district had $7 billion from the federal government to invest in these students, to invest in these teachers. We need to make sure every student has access to the mental health support that they need. We need to make sure every teacher has the training and trauma-informed instruction to support their own professional growth. We need to make sure that we have the things in place to maintain high expectations for all our kids. This is the first full year under the leadership of Mayor Adams and Chancellor Banks. He is a lifelong New Yorker. He is a school leader. He believes in parent engagement. Michael Mulgrew was just reelected. This new leadership team needs to listen to teachers and focus on the needs of kids. They need to come together, labor and management, around a shared set of priorities that will center our students. In the face of the mental health and academic crisis that our schools are facing, the district has also lost 10% of its students since before the pandemic. And there's a looming fiscal cliff when these federal funds run out. We need to make investments now to help save our district. We need to make investments now to ensure teachers can do their job. We need to make investments now to make sure our students have the support they need to be successful. So as we ask New York City leaders today, listen to teachers. They are here on the steps of City Hall before they go back into their classrooms to say we have answers to this city's problems. And so without further ado, I want to introduce Aaron Worley, a social worker at the New York City Department of Education, to talk about what he sees as a key theme in this survey. Let's go, Aaron.
Thank you, Evan. My name is Aaron Worley. I'm a school social worker, and I work in Brooklyn in schools PS 243 and PS 262. And as Evan stated, a lot of our kids are missing resources, and we want to make sure that these kids receive these resources. So one of the points I wanted to discuss is with 82% of the teachers feeling that the kids are behind, how do we address this? Now, me being in the school, I get to see firsthand how many kids are actually at a deficit. And what I've seen is astonishing to me. I've seen kids in 5th grade that are struggling with their reading, with their writing, with their sentence comprehension, and it's alarming to me. I got a story about a few youth that I was working with. We were doing a peer program where if they have an issue, then they have to write a letter to each other to explain and express themselves. So as the kids are writing these letters, I'm noticing a lot of misspelled words, a lot of wrong punctuations, and I'm asking them, how do you feel you were before the pandemic? And they felt that they was stronger writers and stronger readers before the pandemic. And seeing where they're at now, it's no telling why this drop-off happened. The teachers feel that this drop-off happened due to this pandemic, and This is one of the reasons why we need to put the services into the schools so these kids can recover. The services that they need, academic intervention services, aren't given out freely throughout the schools. I've talked with some of my colleagues, and a lot of the schools are not implementing these services, or they're short staffed and they're not able to put these services into place. So these children are not able to get the services that they strongly need and desire. And you would ask why, as a New Yorker, you want to know why these kids are not getting these services, and why, if they promised us $7 billion be put into the city's funding towards these public schools, that the services are not being invested into the children. I've talked to principals and they say, well, I can't hire the right amount of teachers because it's not in my budget. And I can't open up a new classroom because I don't have enough kids. So now these kids is left in these schools. I have 2 schools, they have 30 kids in a class with 1 teacher. So the learning discrepancy is going to take place because these kids are already recovering, and now they have to work against 29 other kids and 1 teacher trying to get their services and trying to recover from the loss that they took. So this is very challenging. So how do we address this? These services need to be put into the schools now. Not even now. They need to be put into the schools yesterday. We need more staffing. We need more services. We need reading services. The kids definitely should be able to utilize academic intervention services. What they're getting now is a very limited amount. But these services should be available to all children that have gone through this situation. Any child that needs or feels they want services should be able to have it. Another point that I want to make is, given how students are struggling with lingering pandemic impacts and learning losses, teachers believe it's critical to ensure that schools are fully staffed and meeting the needs of students. So one of the things that I do at my public schools is I work with children with IEPs. So working with children with these needs, I get to see how they are being affected by this as well. Now, there's a service that these children could get. It's called teacher support, special education teacher support services. It's SETS teachers. Now, they pull out the kids and they go one-on-one with them, or they do small group services. The children that I've had in my schools, we don't have the funding to get a SETS teacher. That's what they're called, SETS teachers. And I asked the principal and I advocate for this service, but it's not available to them. Where this funding goes, once again, I don't know. But this funding needs to go into the schools so these teachers can be hired, so these special education children can get the proper services that they need and deserve. And I'm going to leave you with this one last quote. The children of our city deserve every resource that is available to them as they rebound from this unprecedented educational drop. Our children are the future leaders of this country, and they need to be provided with proper services, support, and nurturing so that we can all watch them blossom. Thank you.
There we go. All right, so what Aaron just talked about is there's a staffing crisis in our schools, there's an academic crisis in our schools. We need to make sure the funding is in place to ensure our students get the services they need, especially our special education students. So there's a fair student funding working group right now and a real opportunity to increase weights for special ed students across the city. We want to see the city making those investments. We want to see the union demanding those investments. Next up, I'm really excited to introduce you to Liz Haea, who is a middle school teacher in the Throgs Neck section of the Bronx. Liz.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're well today. Sure. Okay. Hello, everyone. I hope you are well today, and thank you for coming out. My name is Liz Hayella, and I am a middle school teacher in the Throgs Neck section of the Bronx. I've been an educator for 8 years, and I've instructed students in social emotional learning for the past 2 years. Partnering with Narrative 4, I have developed curricula focused on empathy-based instruction. With this model, students have the chance to talk about themselves, their loved ones, confront their struggles, and rejoice in the obstacles they have overcome. By no means does social emotional instruction replace the need for mental health professionals, but it could be a step in the right direction. SEL instruction prevents mental health crises in the classroom by making classes a safe place for students. 62% of teachers agree that expanding social emotional programs like this would promote positive schools and classroom cultures. Using the themes of faith, identity, migration, violence, and environment, students in my class have analyzed literature, penned poetry, created collages, and spoken self-affirmations to develop a deeper appreciation of pride in their culture. My students have confronted and discussed examples of intersectionality within their story exchanges, and they have practiced telling the essence of their stories and why they matter to their peers and themselves. My students have shared stories in which they have experienced homophobia or sexism from their loved ones. They have experienced racism or bullying within their school community. They've experienced domestic violence or substance abuse within their homes. For some of these students, this was the first time discussing these scenarios with anyone. Many found it cathartic to know that their peers had lived through shared experiences. Through these discussions, students found strength through vulnerability. There were other stories as well where students shared an array of experiences. And they shared their love of mango with sofrito, sancocho, and aki with saltfish. They shared their families' migration stories of leaving their homeland to escape economic hardship, hurricanes, and violence in their communities. They shared the desires and interests that made each of them unique, such as skateboarding, dancing, and wearing henna tattoos. According to survey data, teachers want students to exchange these aspects of themselves with a holistic, social-emotional approach to instruction. A significant majority of teachers believe that social-emotional learning should be taught across most grade levels. 95% believe it should be taught at some point during school. I want to share these samples of poetry that students have shared about their lives. The assignment was for students to create a found poem that reflected their identity and experiences. We read poems from Langston Hughes, Julia Alvarez, Amy Tan, and Yersa Daly Ward in 2 different cohorts. This was the result. Slave, I can't breathe, full of memories, with quick hands, it, owned for centuries, being held, I still bear the marks, was a fairy tale. Hate against us. I pick up my life and I take it with me. I pick up my life and I put it down. Chicago, Detroit, Buffalo, Scranton. I pick up my life and I take it on the train. I am fed up with people who are cruel, who are scared of me. I pick up my life and I take it away. Growing New Yorker, a little American girl who fell in love with Chinese food, sweet potatoes, roast turkey. My father had moved down south from New York City and gave me a brother and sisters whose skin was darker. These poems allowed students to convey the complex stories they have within them, but are not yet contextualized or verbalized. These are the stories of students aware that their Caribbean heritage and racial identity carry a painful history they will have to navigate in their lifetime. These are the stories of Asian American students fed up with Asian hate post the pandemic. These are the stories of students accepting their new identities after their parents' separation. All of these stories are relevant. Social emotional learning allows for these student stories to be heard. Social emotional learning provides a platform to discuss their lived truths and find common ground in their communities. Social emotional learning provides opportunities to develop their confidence and self-awareness by bringing attention to their experiences and values. 87% of teachers have stated to improve student outcomes in school, it's crucial for federal funding to increase the number of school psychologists, counselors, nurses, social workers, and other health professionals. This funding should include social emotional learning to assist schools' mental health professionals in meeting the needs of school communities and guiding student populations as they develop resilience. I implore the New York City Department of Education to allocate funds for social emotional learning. Students everywhere deserve for their stories to be heard, and students will invest more into their school communities after they feel their school community has invested in them. Thank you for your time today.
So what you just heard from Liz about are the real stories of our students, the real desperate need for social emotional learning in all of our schools, the need for curriculum that is not only robust and high quality and rigorous, but also relevant to the cultures and identities of our communities and our students. This needs to change now. Across the country, there is a huge fight to silence teachers, to prevent conversations about race and racism in our schools. Schools need to be the place where these conversations happen. Teachers want to have these conversations with their students. They just need the training and the support to do it well, and that's this city's job to provide them with. Next up is Delise Tolentino, who I'm excited to have talk to you about her role in New York City Public Schools.
Hi. The purpose of a union is to strive for improvements in the workplace. In today's world, we're able to enjoy, grow, and learn from prior union labor efforts. Teachers supporting school staff, advocates, parents, and countless others paved the way to where we are now. It is not only our need, but our duty as a union to continue to improve the work environment within our communities. As a teacher, being a represented member of the U of T matters now more than ever. In the midst of changes to our daily routines and our once known daily flow, our lives have long been conditioned by outside forces that impact teacher performance and our abilities to develop and serve the very students we vow to help nurture and grow. Being union strong is more than just a term that should mean not only showing up, but supporting one another and looking out for our interests in the workplace. It means allowing our union members access and resources to support the promise of an expanding career ladder. Just as the African proverb, each one, teach one. We have to be able to broaden our current standing in order to support the diversification of roles and responsibilities to truly embody growth from within. We're in times of change that have long been overdue to our members. Our union and members have changed, grown, and desire far more than what we have been given. Our union must adhere and address these changes before we demand that our voices be heard. Our leadership must be the first line to truly listen, understand, create, implement, and advocate for the changes teachers and school staff need in order to pivot in the right direction for our children's future. Our members deserve to have strong leadership that meets their needs and addresses their demands for a collaborative, transparent, and supportive work environment. We cannot be strong when less than half of our embodying population does not feel we are properly represented. We cannot talk about growth and empowerment from within when we haven't taken proper care of some of our own members. Mentorship, facilitation, and ease of access to resources that address our own contractual agreement for the support of our members needs to be revised and revamped. We cannot refurbish our prior practices that led us to our current times. What benefit is there in making mistakes if we do not learn or render new knowledge from them? If our union is truly serving our members' best interest, then we must make mentorship more seamless, accessible, and easier to understand. How can we truly be represented in the 21st century when so many of our current mechanisms are outdated? Voting expansion must be renewed in order to provide participation electronically, in addition to being held within our workplace. Our best tools in moving forward a more democratic, member-inclusive, and representative body of what U of T is starts with taking the necessary strides for change. Needless to say, as the U of T works to represent members and provide support, We should also hold David Banks and the Department of Education accountable. While the survey released today shows teachers want to see more from their union, it also shows that teachers overwhelmingly support culturally relevant education. When teachers ask for a universal, culturally relevant curriculum called Mosaic, we were promised resources and tools for instruction. However, those promises have fallen short. We were told our children will be provided some of the best instruction to address this, while the use of the Mosaic curriculum, yet no update or resources have been rendered to our schools. Nearly 1,000 teachers have signed a petition calling for an update for Mosaic. All we have heard is silence. How can we teach our future generations when the quality of our resources does not capture, include, or represent the current population of students that is being served? To take it a step further, when teaching our youth, our history should be at the forefront. Our educators give credence to the realities of our children's face, including the racial inequality and experiences of our students. The history of the diverse people that make up our own communities should not be hidden or swept under the rug. As we move in the light of inclusion, we also speak and stand by the history and experiences of the LGBTQIA community. If within a classroom as teachers, we cannot be the bearers of the truth that the world is, how can we embody and meet the promises of education? In education, we are all included. Thank you.
So what Delise just talked about is a few things. One, we just had a union election where only about 20% of current classroom teachers were able to vote and engage in that election. We need to make voting easier. Two, we need our union to be more representative and more democratic of the teachers who make it up. Three, we need a curriculum that is rolled out citywide that represents the cultures and identities of our students and supports teachers to improve our instruction. $200 million was set aside for the Mosaic curriculum. Where is that curriculum? Where is that update? Teachers across the city want to know. There is huge challenge right now in this district, but there is also massive opportunity, and teachers are ready to do the work. What they need is consistent, collaborative leadership from the union and the district that listens to their voices and focuses on the needs and supports our students deserve. So we're releasing this poll today to help draw attention to what teachers want, what teachers need, what teachers think, because they are with their students day in and day out. We hope that the outcome of this is that Michael Mulgrew, Chancellor Banks, will come back to the table to talk to and listen to educators to better understand what our students need as we reopen schools next week. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming out. We'll open it up to any questions that you might have. We actually think it's a combination of both. So there is a teacher shortage that's affecting the city. Mostly that teacher shortage is affecting specialized service areas, so our special educators, our SETS teachers, math teachers, science teachers, dual language teachers. So there's a real shortage in specific service areas. And we also know that there's a lot of confusion at the school level around what their actual budget is. What investments will they be able to make? As you all know, the budget has been approved and then unapproved and then frozen by the courts. And so what we're seeing is principals freezing in this decision-making process of can we make offers, can we hire teachers, can we fill our school buildings? We also know that there's a lot of teachers that are just now telling their schools that they're moving buildings or not showing up. And so we do think the first couple of weeks are going to be extremely tumultuous as classrooms are understaffed for all of those reasons. Anybody want to add to that? Any other questions? And we're happy to answer one-off questions if you have them after